So you're a guy that is 40 years old or maybe even older, and you have convinced yourself that you can no longer get strong like you could when you were younger, and you need some drastically different approach to your strength training. You might say things like you're just trying to maintain your strength now, you're past your prime, you have to do less volume because your recovery is poor, you feel sore, tired, and beat up quite often, you're probably carrying a lot of fat around your belly. Your nutrition is not great. You don't really track it because you tracked for years and you know what you eat. You eat the same things every single day. And training's probably lost its fun because you're just going in and maintaining basically, and then you feel wrecked for days afterwards. In this video, I'm going to tell you why all of these are excuses, they are bullshit, and I will give you a solution so that you can keep getting strong well into your 40s, 50s, 60s, and even beyond. And if you want me to personally coach you, and I coach a bunch of 40, 50, and even 60-year-olds to get strong, top link in the description, you can hire me as your personal strength coach, or second link if you want to go and run my strength training programs. So let me tell you why I think a lot of these things are bullshit, to put it bluntly. Because there seems to be this huge problem that once guys hit 40 years old, they think their strength training career is done. They can't get stronger anymore. I even do calls with 30-year-old guys, and bear in mind I'm going to be 30 next year, and they tell me like I'm past my prime, I've got recovery issues, I can't get stronger, my testosterone's low and stuff like that. And these old school strength coaches have convinced you guys that once you are 30 or 40 years old, like, you're done. And I'm here to tell you that it's nothing to do with your age. It's not your fault as a guy in your 30s or 40s that you can't get strong. It is a result of all of the shit training programs out there. The training programs that are out there for intermediate lifters, 531, 5x5, Texas Method, Starting Strength, all these programs are shit. That's why you're not making progress. So let me make a few assumptions about your training and nutrition currently. So you probably follow one of those programs that I just mentioned, or you have like a self-written plan that you put together, like you took pieces from all these different programs, right? You do quite low volume, but high intensity. You're probably working at like 80% and above quite often. You do a lot of fives. You grind weights quite often. You're quite close to failure for most of your training volume. You think that to get stronger, you just need to add 5 pounds each week. Basically, you'll start with say 225 week 1, and then you add 5 pounds each week until you hit a wall. Then you start over, you take a deload week, and you try and build up again. You do the main lifts once or twice a week. You don't do many accessories. You don't really do bodybuilding, like not a lot of curls or push downs or not much movement variety and stuff like that. You don't do any kind of rehab or resilience type training. There's no auto regulation, no RPE. You just train hard and just try and put weight on the bar every single week. You don't track your nutrition because you eat the same things every single day, which is bullshit, by the way. I've seen it with hundreds of guys. You eat barely any fruits or vegetables, barely any fiber. You just have convenience foods, takeaways, whatever you can grab at the cafeteria at work or Uber Eats and stuff like that. Does any of that sound familiar? Because if it does, then it's not your age, it's the training approach, okay? And I'm going to tell you exactly how to fix it. I'm just going to give you some step-by-step advice so you can fix it, and then 6 months on, you'll look back and you'll think, shit, it's nothing to do with my age. I can actually still get really, really strong and hit PRs well into my 40s. So here is the solution to all of your problems as you are getting older. Solution number 1, stop training to failure ever on the main lifts. The squat, the bench press, the deadlift. I don't care what the context is or what phase of training it is, just stop training to failure ever. You never ever need to go to failure to get as strong as possible on the squat, the bench press, the deadlift, the overhead press, lifts like that. Sure, maybe it's going to happen once in a blue moon when you're trying for a PR. Regular training, you never need to train for failure, okay? To failure. If I could give you a really simple illustration to understand this, let's say that the stimulus, right? So as we approach failure, yes, the stimulus is going to go up like this, but the fatigue goes like this, okay? So let's say you do a set with 2 reps in the tank. You're getting a lot of stimulus. A set with 1 rep left in the tank, a little bit more stimulus. A set to failure, a little bit more stimulus. But when we look at the fatigue, like 2 reps in reserve, I'd say the fatigue is around here. Then when we go 1 rep in reserve, it jumps up. When we go failure, it skyrockets. Literally, once you are a stronger guy and you are hitting failure or you are maxing out, you will pay for it. There is a fatigue cost associated with hitting failure. And if you're doing it every single week, every single training block, it's no wonder that you can't string together much productive training and you feel beat up and feel like shit all the time. I would feel like my testosterone was low if I was training like how some of you guys train. You're training like you're elite level athletes on performance enhancing drugs. So stop training to failure. Just leave reps in the tank. Do most of your sets, I would say, between like an RPE 5 and 7, where you leave 3 to 5 reps in the tank. You can do some of your sets hard, so maybe you do some top sets that are RPE 7, RPE 8 sometimes, but then do your volume work in the 60 to 75% range where you're leaving multiple reps in reserve. You'll be able to train more frequently at higher qualities, higher volumes, and you're not going to feel so beat up and fatigued, okay? So I would recommend that a lot of you older guys, 40 and above, you focus your efforts on actually being able to tolerate more volume over time rather than more intensity. So I would recommend that you dial the intensity down and you dial the volume up a little bit. I would much rather, so let's say for example on your current approach, let's say you squat twice a week, right? You do a 3x5 and a 3x5 and they're both really hard, 80% and above, really close to failure. I would recommend that you take these really hard 3x5s and you chunk it down into more manageable, easy chunks that are lower intensity but more volume across the week. So a lot of you, the deadlift is probably the best example I can give. A lot of you guys deadlift once a week and you do a 3x5 or a 2x5. Instead of doing those 2 or 3 really hard sets, break it up into 2 days, scale the intensity down. Maybe on this day you do 1 hard set and then you do 2 easier sets in the 60 to 75% range. Same thing on the other day. It's more volume, but the intensity is a bit lower. But because you're practicing the deadlift twice a week, you get more skilled at the movement and you actually get stronger long term because you become a proficient deadlifter and you build your work capacity. Because a big part of getting strong long term, and a lot of guys don't really understand this, you need to be able to do a lot of training. Like, how much running do you think Usain Bolt does to get that fast? Or how many practice hours of football or soccer do you think Cristiano Ronaldo did to become that good of a footballer? Do you think he would do it practicing football once a week? There's absolutely no way. So if you want to be really, really strong on the main lifts, you need to have really good work capacity so that you can do a ton of those lifts. How good is your work capacity going to be if you only do 2 sets of deadlift per week? If we scale the intensity down so that you can do 6 sets per week, then you're going to improve your work capacity, become a better deadlifter, do more deadlift work over each week, month, and year, therefore get stronger, okay? So the main bottleneck to most of you guys' progress in your 40s is the fact that the training you are doing is way too hard. Because it's so hard, you can't do enough of it to get strong. Because if I told you, 40-year-old guy watching this video, that you need to bench 3 or 4 days a week to get really, really strong, you're going to say to me, like, what do you mean? Like, I can't recover from 3 or 4 days a week benching. My shoulders are going to get beat up. And that's because in your mind, you think a productive bench press session is hard, heavy, and close to failure. But what if I told you one of them could be hard, one of them could be a really, really light tempo bench press for like 2 sets of 5. The next one could be even lighter. Like, it doesn't need to be heavy every time, but we need to get you to a point where you can do sufficient training to get strong. And in order to do that, it can't all be hard and heavy. So scale the intensity down. If you are currently doing a lot of your work close to failure, heavy, grindy, scale it down into the 60 to 75% range. If you're a guy who's 40 plus, I would push you even closer towards that 60% range or even below, because you can do more training then. Another tip that I would give you, you need to have more movement variation in your training. A big reason why you are feeling so beat up, sore, you've got a bunch of overuse injuries like tendinopathies and stuff like that, you got golfer's elbow, tennis elbow, or whatever, is because you just do like 3 or 4 lifts. You just do the squat, the bench, the deadlift, the overhead press. There's no variation. You don't do any curls, you don't do any tricep work, any lateral raises. You're missing out on so many different ranges of motion. You're just hammering the same movements over and over and then wondering why all your joints feel like you're 70 years old. So I'm not telling you to go and do 20 different movements, but expand your base a little bit. We have good data to suggest that athletes who they select a broad base of movement patterns, they improve their motor learning, meaning that you get better at exercise more quickly compared to someone who just really hyper focuses on a really small group of exercises. So yes, do your squat, your bench, your deadlift, your overhead press, do those enough to get skilled and proficient at them, but then add in a bunch of things to the program to build up weak points, to grow your arms, to build some muscle mass, to rehab certain areas, or to build resilience. So that brings me on to my next point. Some of you older guys need to be doing resilience type training. So if you're the kind of guy who consistently tweaks your back when you deadlift, I would recommend that you do something like a Jefferson curl, train spinal flexion, train spinal rotation and movements like this, because if you're consistently getting hurt when you're exposed to a particular position, train that position, build some resilience, build some tolerance, improve your confidence psychologically. Another one that I often use, a lot of older guys will really struggle with this position, external rotation. They can't get into a low bar squat, they can't get into the bottom of the bench press, so I'll have them train that position. I use a McLeod fly where we will, with dumbbells, we will train this position on an incline bench, build some resilience in the shoulders, build some confidence, and therefore you're able to tolerate more training. Again, you can improve your work capacity and get stronger. The final thing I would tell you is please fix your nutrition. I would say this is probably the biggest difficulty I have with my clients, because all of them tell me like I eat the same things every day, or my diet's pretty good. When I actually assess their diet, 9 times out of 10 is pretty bad. They're ordering Uber Eats for most meals, or whatever they can get at work with convenience, processed foods, stuff like that. So if I could just give you like real quick summary for nutrition: eat more whole, minimally processed foods. What I mean by that is don't choose foods that have a list of 30 ingredients on the ingredient label. Have a meal plan or a structure. Eat the same things at the same times each day. Make sure you're eating enough protein. Max out on fruits and vegetables. Eat as many fruits and vegetables as you can. A really easy way that you can implement this if you're struggling with fruit and veg: just add a large salad to your evening meal. That's a good starting point to get in a bunch of vegetables. A bunch of mixed greens like different leaves, some cucumbers, some pickles, add a dressing of your choice, done, and that will bump up your vegetable intake nice and easily. So if I could give you some closing comments just to kind of summarize this video and give you some action steps to improve your training: change your mindset. If you're a 40-year-old guy, and definitely if you're a 30-year-old guy, change your mindset. You're not past your prime. You're not going to like never PR again. You just need to change your approach. A lot of these intermediate approaches that are out there that have you training really hard, really close to failure, are the reason why a lot of you guys are not seeing the results you want from your training. It's not your fault, it's the fault of these shitty programs, and it's time that we start getting off them and getting on better approaches. There is a reason why the strongest guys in this game, the powerlifters, the strength athletes, train nothing like those intermediate programs, apart from the rare 1 in a million who's just a genetic freak who can respond really well to them. I coach a bunch of 40, 50, even 60 plus year olds to get really strong, and I preach a lot of these things to them. Scale the intensity down, do some more volume, open up your movement variation, improve your nutrition, and if you want me to just do it for you, again, top link in the description, and I will just handle all this stuff for you. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions or comments, post them in the comment section down below, and until next time, I'll catch you in the next video.